going down for real.
Hello there, and welcome to another edition of the Women's Basketball Coaches Show. I'm Jordan Bazron with Muleriders.com. Joined alongside head women's basketball coach Rusty Rainbolt. And our coach, it's been a little while since we last talked, but let's go a few weeks back. We're going to go back to the Southern Nazarene matchup, a game which you won 63-42, and Rosa Bryant was really a catalyst in that game. She had 12 points all in the second half. You said earlier this season that she would be one of the sleepers of this recruiting class. Can you talk about how she's playing thus far?
Well, Rose is doing a very good job. She's a great person and a great teammate, and it's fun to coach her. You know, a lot of the things that she does isn't something you can coach. She's just a very athletic kid that has a great feel for the game and a great touch, and she played very well in that game, and we were very proud of her because Southern Nazarene has one of the best players in the whole country in Aminata Fall, and Rosa was definitely she was excited about the challenge and went right at her, and you know, again, that young lady is just an impact defensively, and so for Rosa to be willing to go and get her shots at the rim, you know, that was pretty fun to see. But it was a fun game. The kids played well.
You talk about Fall's impact defensively, but it was your team that forced 28 turnovers in that game, and you guys scored 22 points off of those 28 turnovers. Can you talk about your team's defensive effort in that matchup?
I think that's one of the things, again, that we definitely want to be known for is our defense. You know, we've struggled to score up to this point in pretty much all of our games. It's always a struggle, but, you know, we've played pretty well defensively, and that was a game where Southern Nazarene, I think, is definitely better than what they played that day. I think it was one of those games where we kind of caught them on their heels and got ahead early, and then, you know, just kind of snowballed from there. But, you know, the kids, our kids definitely did a good job of keeping the tempo up and applying pressure and trying to like you said, turn those turnovers into points, and that's the way we have to score, is by getting steals and turnovers and getting out in transition.
Now moving into the next matchup against Southeastern Oklahoma, maybe a game we're trying to get away from, but Southeastern Oklahoma is in fact a really good team. They're still undefeated to this point, and it was Olivia Potter for them. She went 9 for 14 from 3. Now, can you talk about how was she able to be so effective? I know she hit shots from nearly all over the court, but how much effect did Southeastern's great ability to break your press have in her making so many threes?
Well, they're a very good team. I think one of the things that we looked at after the fact was that a lot of those shots she made were contested. I mean, she's got a super quick release, and she's a little bitty thing, but man, she can really shoot it. You know, it's not the only time she's done that this year. A couple games she had 8 and 7 makes, and so it wasn't where we just overlooked her. She did her job and make shots, you know. And I challenge a lot of people to go out and make 9 to 14 threes without a game action or anybody running at them, and she did it in live game action. So you know, they went out and beat us. It wasn't where you know, it was a fluke thing or whatever. I mean, they just came out that game and played very well. You know, again, it wasn't. Everybody would look at the game and see all the made threes and stuff like that. They still only scored in the low 70s. It's not like they scored 85 or 100. They scored in the low 70s, but we just struggled to score again. So I think that was the thing that for them, you know, they did a good job defensively and really gave us fits putting the ball in the holes. So it was a tough game. You know, I thought our kids played hard. We just, again, couldn't put the ball in the hole, and it's hard to win if you can't score.
Now, Brian again was a spark in that game, 16 points, but I want to talk about Lauren Lee. She's a freshman. She came off the bench in the second half and grabbed 4 rebounds, but that's led to increased playing time in the past 2 games. So I guess what have you seen out of the freshmen so far?
Yeah, all of our freshmen, I've told them, you know, we really believe in them. We think they're all going to be good players. I'm always hesitant to put them out there because, one, early on as a freshman, you're probably going to struggle, and I think confidence and psyche is so important. And if you get out there and you struggle early on, it could really hurt you in the long run. And so I've told our freshmen, I'm not going to put you out there until I know you're ready. Not that when you think you're ready, but when I think you're ready. It was one of those games where, you know, we wanted to get Lauren in and get her some minutes, and she did a pretty good job, and she's just continued to develop. And so we have high hopes for her and Carly and Allison and Sarah. And so all of our freshmen feel like have a good future. It's just, again, you know, finding the right situations to put them in where they can be successful.
Now, moving into your next contest, you went on the road to Claremore, Oklahoma, a nice little road trip for your team. But it was a game that you guys won by 10 points, and it was Chanel Miller in that matchup, the reigning GAC Player of the Year. She had 19 first-half points. She ended up with 25 total, and also Shannon Agnew finished with 13 points, including, I think, 3 or 4 from the three-point line. So what can you say about those two as scorers in that particular matchup?
Yeah, you know, going on the road is always tough. It doesn't matter who you're playing or where you're playing. If you can go on the road and get a win against a quality opponent, you're happy. We played pretty well in that game, actually, and you know, like you said, Chanel played very well, and Shannon played well. We had a lot of kids that filled their roles very well. I think we were up almost 20 late in that game and ended up playing some other people, and they cut the lead back down to 10 with about, you know, a couple minutes left. But you know, it was good. Chanel got hot and got a lot of touches. I thought the key in that game was the fact that it kind of felt like at that point we found our rhythm in that game of passing up certain shots to get other people the right shots. You know, and we always talk about it, the right people taking the right shots in the right spots. And there were girls in that game that were passing up open looks to make the next pass to get Chanel the ball. And that's good offense. You know, you watch the Spurs play, and that's what everybody talks about, is how well they pass the ball. Well, we really struggle to pass the ball at times, and that was a game where we actually did it and found the right people, and it was a fun game offensively for us to play. But, you know, again, we come back the next game and we go back to struggling to pass the ball and get open shots or make open shots, and that's why the Commerce game turned out the way it did. But the Rogers State game was definitely a good win on the road.
Now, moving into the Commerce game, you just mentioned it. Can you talk us through the end of that game? I know there was a bit of a shakeup of what happened, but can you tell the fans what actually happened at the end of that game?
Referring to what?
just the end of the game. I know you guys held a lead in the last 2 minutes, and then things kind of flip-flopped on you guys.
Yeah, it was a little bit of an interesting game. You know, I think one of the things that stands out for that game to me is the way the game was called officiating. There was a ton of charges called. There was a ton of off-the-ball fouls called. It was just a weird game to coach and play, because it felt like that you couldn't really get in a rhythm because of the way the game was called. And, you know, they were consistent, as they said, throughout the game, but there were a lot of weird calls that were made on both sides. It didn't go against us. It was in both games. I think the last 2 minutes of that game, they scored. I think in the last 5 minutes of that game, if I'm correct, Commerce scored 1 basket. The rest of them were fouls and stuff like that. And so it was just it's one of those games where it was called very tight, you know, and that definitely didn't go in our advantage the way we played, but the way they played too. You know, they pressed and pressured and all that stuff. But you know, we had a lead, had a couple turnovers at the end of the game, and we had the ball and we went down and they called a block foul that was actually a charge. We watched it on film. That was actually something they should have called a charge, and kids got to shoot free throws. And you know, last possession of the game, they're shooting free throws and they tip it out and give it back to them, and then overrule the call and give it to us, and couldn't get anything done in the last 4 seconds. But it was, like I say, it was just a very weird game from the beginning to the end. You know, we led most of the first half, and then the kid hits a shot at the buzzer at the end of the first half from about 5 feet behind the three-point line, and you know, just some weird stuff that happened. But you know, we had to play that game without Chanel. That didn't help us any. I mean, she's definitely our best player, best scorer from the perimeter. And so anytime you take your best player off the court, it makes it a bit of a challenge. And then Shantae got hurt in that game and didn't get to finish, and she was having her best game of the year up to that point. And so, you know, it's one of those things that when one person goes down, those guys step up, and we didn't quite have that happen from an offensive standpoint in that game.
Now, you said Miller did go down late in the Rogers State game, but I want to go back to the second half of the Rogers State game, and Allie Wade, she played 10 minutes in that game, and she had 8 points, 5 rebounds, a really productive night for her. And then she goes into A&M Commerce, and she nearly gets a double-double, 10 points and 8 boards. What can you say out of, and I must say 4 of her boards were on the offensive end, so she's really attacking the glass really hard. So what can you say about Allie Wade, I guess, filling in for Chanel? Of course, not as much of a dynamic scorer as Chanel is, but can you talk about Allie's filling in and her leadership out there on the court?
Yeah, well, Allie is a kid that is super versatile, and where everybody talks about Chanel and Rosa because of their scoring, you know, we have other kids that really impact the game more in other areas than Chanel and Rosa do. You know, Allie is one that we really encourage her to, as you said, go to the offensive glass, because she's a 6-foot, you know, wing player that can jump up and grab the rim. She's super athletic. She loves to play. The kid is you know, I mean, just a competitor and loves to play, and Louisiana connection, you know, so that's what you get. But she had her best 2 games of the year in the Rogers State and the Commerce game, you know, and when she's rebounding and running in transition and guarding the way she can, she has such a long wingspan that she can really affect passing lanes and stuff like that. I mean, her value doesn't show up in terms of stats that most people see, but her and Miranda Greer is another one. That Miranda is a rebounder, defender, runner in transition. You know, take the shots you can get when they're open, but do other things, do the dirty work. And so we we like those type of kids. I like those type of kids. You know, I don't want a bunch of prima donnas that have to score all the time because everybody's not going to shoot it as much as Chanel is, you know, or Rosa. Other kids got to be committed to rebounding, defending, you know, taking charges, stuff like that. But definitely Allie had her best 2 games of the year, and we're excited, you know, especially with the injuries that we have now. You know, having somebody like Allie to step in and take the 3-4 spot for Shantae and Chanel is a good thing. You know, it's good to have that type of depth come in.
Yes, Wade did lead the team in steals last year, but this year it's actually Symone Jenkins, another transfer you brought in. So what can you say about Jenkins' play early on, especially on the defensive end?
Yeah, well, she's a water bug, man. She's fast, you know, defensively and offensively. And Mimi is she's trying to find her way right now. I think we were putting her in a completely different role with different expectations than what she came from the last 2 years at ACU, and so you know we're constantly wanting her to turn it loose. You know, just go play, go score, get out and pass the lanes, run, you know, turn it loose. And I think she was a little more structured, had a different role last year, so she's trying to find her way through that. But Mimi is, to me, she's the unprecedented leader of our team. I mean, we know she's as committed as anybody on the team, giving everything she has. She asks questions all the time. She's constantly about what can the other girls do to get better, how can she better do that. And so it's easy to throw Mimi out there and know that you can trust her because you're getting everything she has, you know. And so, but she's definitely a asset on the defensive end, an asset in transition, and you know she makes a few threes every once in a while too. So just a great player to have that we're excited about.
Now let's move into tomorrow, the big matchup. You're back at home, but Harding Lady Bisons come in. You know they're ranked number 20. They were ranked tied for 8th last week. They came off 2 tough losses, one against Cameron and a 2-point loss against another team that was tied for 8th at the time, West Texas A&M, who finished runner-up in Division II last year. Harding is 2nd in the conference in scoring. They lead the conference in rebounding margin. They attack the glass really hard. What can you say about Harding as a team?
They're a great team. They're a great team. They are the San Antonio Spurs of our league. You know, they're not a team that puts the ball on the floor and dribbles the air out of it, and you know, you don't look at them and say, wow, those are a bunch of great athletes. What they're a great basketball team. They do what basketball players are supposed to do. They pass, they catch, they shoot, and they communicate very well. You know, and that's the thing that's just so fun to watch them play, because you watch them and you just think, wow, they don't do anything real special, but making shots is special because it's so hard to do. You know, and that's what they do is good or better than anybody in the country is they make shots. You know, and they pass the ball so well, and so it's a tough game. You know, it really is. They're experienced. They expect to win. You know, that they're going to be upset coming off of 2 losses, but going out to West Texas, where I'm from, you know, you're not going to get any calls on the road out there, and playing WT at their home court and playing Canyon out there. I mean, there's no shame in losing 2 games out there because they were in both of them at the very end. So Harding is a great team. They're as well coached as anybody in the country. We have a ton of respect for them, and so it'll definitely be a tough challenge for us. But you know, we've said it time and time again, we want to be a championship caliber team, and the only way you know that is if you play the best teams, and it shows you the gap between where you're at and where they're at. So we're hoping that that gap isn't very big after tomorrow, but you know, we've got to show up and see.
Now let's maybe talk about Harding individuals. They have Ariel Saunders, of course. She averages a double-double plus. She leads the GAC in assists. I guess it's kind of like an Amanada Fall situation. You're not going to sort of stop her, but how do you contain her?
That's a good question. if we find that answer, let me know. No, Saunders is a fantastic player. I think it shows how great of a program they have too, considering she's in a completely different role than she was last year when they won the championship, you know, the conference championship. She was a rebounder, defender, take the right shots at the right times last year because of the other kids they had around her. This year, she is the go-to player, and she was averaging 25 before they went out on their West Texas road trip. So, I mean, she is, like you said, 17, 11 rebounds, and 6 assists. I mean, she's a great all-around player. So, I don't know that you can definitely stop her unless she gets in foul trouble or, you know, gets sick or something, doesn't show up. But she's one that she does it all, and she plays so hard. So, you know, the key is just slowing her down a little bit and disrupting her rhythm, and then taking everything else away from around her. You know, you can't let her get 20 and then other girls and them hit 10 threes. You just can't do that. You got to take one or the other away. And so, but how you do that, you know, we're trying to figure that out. So she's a very good player, though.
Now Harding nearly has 4 players in double-digit scoring per game. We look forward to watching your full court press defense against that high-powered offense. It should be a clash of the Titans, so to say. Now, let's go into Saturday. You face OBU, the Lady Tigers. They haven't had quite the success that Harding has had all season, but what have you seen from OBU? I know it's a game away from Harding, and you don't want to look over Harding, certainly, but I guess can you give us a quick preview of the OBU matchup?
Yeah, to be honest with you, we take all of our scouting one game at a time, and so I haven't looked at OBU this year. You know, I know that they have a ton of tradition in what they're doing. I know that Coach Crowder they run a great Princeton offense, and his kids are well coached. They execute very well. You know, his words, as he said, is they're trying to rebuild and redeem from what they did last year, and so his kids are going to fight every night. You know, I know that they've got different players in different roles this year, and so but like I said, I haven't watched them yet because I take it one game at a time. My staff doing it, but they know that until the game over on Thursday that they don't fill me in on that because we don't want to overlook or mix our scouting reports and stuff like that. But it'll be tough. There's just no nights off in any league, you know, not just the GAC, in every league. And when you get to this level, you got to show up and play your best or you're going to have a chance to lose, you know. And so that's the thing for us is we're trying to prepare for Thursday, Saturday, next week, just like we're playing Harding every night, you know, and so it's going to be tough either way.
All right, Lady Muleriders fans, you heard it here first from head women's basketball coach Rusty Rainbolt. The Lady Muleriders take on the Harding Lady Bisons tomorrow at 5:30 here at WT Watson Center. Thanks for joining us, Coach, and good luck.
Thank you.